The house had been waiting. Silent. Empty. Watching. It was never abandoned, not really. Beneath its rotting wood and crumbling stone, something remained. Something that never left. The invitation was just a formality. They were always going to come. 5 strangers, each believing they had a choice. Each believing they were here for a reason. But whatever brought them to Blackwood Manor was older than reason. Older than them. As they stepped beyond the rusted gates, the wind died. The trees stood still. And for the first time in years, the house breathed. They thought they were guests. They were not. They were offerings. The Blackwood Manor was never meant to be lived in. It was built, brick by brick, on something that should have been left undisturbed. Something that had been there long before the first stone was laid. The house itself was merely a vessel, a mask for what lay beneath. In its early years it was a thing of beauty. Grand, towering, a symbol of wealth and power. The Blackwood family was admired, envied even. Their fortune was endless, their lineage unbroken. To the outside world they were untouchable. But within these walls, something else was happening. No one remembers exactly when the first death occurred. Some say it was the youngest son, barely 13, found floating face down in the reflecting pool one morning. Others insist it was the housekeeper who vanished without a trace, leaving nothing behind but a single blood-stained handprint on the library door. What is known is that it did not stop there. One by one, the family members either disappeared or met unspeakable ends. A father who slit his own throat in the study, his body found seated upright as if he had merely fallen asleep. A mother who wandered into the east wing one evening and was never seen again. Servants who whispered of voices calling to them from the walls, only to be found days later, hollow-eyed, mouths twisted in silent screams. No explanations. No arrests. Just an estate that seemed to devour everyone who dared to call it home. And then one day, it stood empty. For decades it sat untouched, the heavy iron gates locked, the windows dark. People spoke of it in hushed voices, passing down warnings disguised as folklore. Never step beyond the gate, they said. Do not enter the house. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. People came anyway. Explorers, thrill-seekers, historians, none of them stayed long. The few who did return spoke of whispers in the halls, doors slamming shut on their own, shadows that moved where no light should cast them. And those were the lucky ones. Because there were others who never returned at all. And now, 5 strangers have come, drawn by the same force that has lured so many before them. Each believing they have a reason to be here. Each believing they will leave when they choose. But the house does not open its doors so easily. The housekeeper greets them with polite indifference, her voice low, her gaze unreadable. She does not welcome them. She does not warn them. She simply leads them forward, deeper into the house, deeper into its history. The walls seem to tighten around them, the air thick, unmoving. Dust lingers in the sunlight that barely pushes through the stained glass windows, casting distorted shapes on the marble floor. The portraits that line the grand staircase stare down in silence, their expressions too lifelike, their eyes too knowing. And then she speaks. The Blackwood family, she says, her voice barely more than a whisper. They are still here. No one asks what she means. No one wants to know. But before the night is over, they will. The house was never truly empty. It had only been waiting. Every step they took was followed by silence, not the kind found in empty spaces, but the kind that watches, listens, and waits for the perfect moment to break. The 5 strangers had been given their rooms, each one untouched by time yet strangely lived in. The sheets were clean, the furniture polished. But something was wrong. The air smelled faintly of dust and something else. Something stale, something rotten beneath the surface. The first to notice was Olivia, the journalist. She ran her fingers over the vanity in her room, her sharp eyes catching details others would have ignored. A jewelry box, its hinges rusted shut. A mirror, slightly askew, revealing just a sliver of something behind it. And on the bedside table, a letter. Yellowed with age, its ink faded but legible. Leave before the house takes you. No name. No explanation. Just a warning written by someone who never had the chance to escape. She turned, scanning the room, suddenly aware of how wrong it felt. The closet door was slightly open. Had it been like that before? She didn't remember. Elsewhere in the house, another door creaked open on its own. The professor, Daniel, had been exploring the library, a massive room filled with books older than he could date. He ran his fingers along the spines, reading their titles in a whisper, names of authors long forgotten. Then his fingers stopped. One book was missing. The gap between the volumes was unmistakable, a space where something should have been. And yet, the dust had not settled there. Someone had taken it recently. The fireplace crackled behind him, though no one had lit it. He turned sharply, his heart pounding. The room was empty. He was alone. Or at least he should have been. The others were scattered throughout the house, each drawn to a different part, each feeling the weight of something unseen pressing against them. There was no wind, no movement beyond their own. And yet things were shifting. In the hallway, Ethan, the skeptic, paused before an old grandfather clock. Its hands had stopped moving at exactly 3:13. The glass was cracked, a hairline fracture running through the surface. He leaned in closer, his breath fogging the glass. Then the clock chimed. Loud, piercing, echoing through the empty halls. The others heard it from their rooms, their conversations cut short, their movements frozen. And then, footsteps. Slow, heavy. Coming from the east wing. The one place they were told never to go. They stood in silence, exchanging glances, waiting for someone to speak, to laugh, to dismiss it as the old house settling. But no one did. Because no one believed that anymore. The housekeeper was nowhere to be found. The doors they had left open were now closed. And outside the storm had begun. The rain came down in sheets, hammering against the tall windows, casting distorted shadows across the walls. The storm had arrived without warning, no distant thunder, no gradual drizzle. Just a sudden, violent downpour, as if the sky itself had been waiting for them to enter before it decided to trap them inside. The house was awake now. They gathered in the main hall, drawn together by the sound of the clock, by the footsteps that had come from the east wing. No one wanted to say it, but they were afraid. The kind of fear that clings to your ribs, that slows your breathing, that makes you hesitate before turning a corner. It's just the storm, Ethan said, his voice low, but even he didn't believe it anymore. Someone was missing. The housekeeper. She had been here. She had led them in, given them their rooms, told them to stay inside after midnight. And now she was gone. No warning. No sound of doors opening or closing. Just gone. The professor, Daniel, was the first to suggest searching for her. She knows this house better than anyone, he reasoned. If something's wrong, she'll know what to do. The others hesitated, but standing still felt worse than moving, so one by one they agreed. They would search the house. They would stay together. And they would not go near the east wing. But the house had other plans. As they made their way through the halls, the air seemed to shift around them. Subtle at first, just the faintest whisper of cold seeping through the walls. The flickering candlelight made their shadows stretch and distort, pulling them into strange shapes against the faded wallpaper. The chandeliers above swayed ever so slightly, though there was no draft. Then, the doors began to close. One by one, the doors they had left open, doors they had just walked through, swung shut behind them. The sound echoed through the halls, a heavy, deliberate finality to it. Olivia spun on her heels, reaching for the nearest handle, pulling. Lock. No. No, 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 this isn't happening, she muttered, tugging harder, but the door did not budge. The hallway stretched ahead of them, longer now, impossibly long. The paintings on the walls were different. Before, they had been portraits of the Blackwood family, stern faces, Victorian attire, frozen expressions. Now they were something else. The faces were missing. Just blank, empty ovals where eyes and mouths had once been. Then one of them moved. A slow, crawling shift of something beneath the canvas. A hand pressing against the inside of the painting, fingers distorting the surface as if trying to push through. Run. No one knew who said it. Maybe they all did. They ran. Through the corridors, past rooms they did not recognize, past staircases that twisted in the wrong directions. The house was changing. It wasn't just old, it was alive. And it was playing with them. Somewhere ahead, a door stood open, a single escape from the endless maze of hallways. They ran toward it, breathless, desperate, but as they reached the threshold, the air changed. A sound filled the space. A voice. It was soft at first. A whisper, rising and falling, unintelligible. Then it grew louder, distorted, stretching into something too long, too deep, too unnatural. And then, it stopped. Everything stopped. The candles went out. The sound of rain ceased. The house held its breath. And in the silence, from the darkness ahead, someone was waiting. Something was waiting. They were not alone. The silence was unbearable. It wasn't just the absence of sound, it was deeper than that, heavier. A silence that swallowed everything, pressing against their ears, filling their lungs. A silence so complete it felt unnatural, like the house itself had drawn in a breath and was waiting to exhale. No one moved. No one spoke. Then from the darkness ahead came the first sound. A single, deliberate knock. Just once. Sure. Hollow. The kind of knock that doesn't come from human hands. They didn't want to look. They didn't want to see what had made the noise. But the darkness ahead of them was shifting, bending as if something was stepping forward. The storm had stopped, but the air was wet, thick with the scent of earth and rot. The shadows along the walls stretched unnaturally, elongating, reaching for them like something just beneath the surface of a blackened sea. And then Olivia, always the first to notice things, took a slow, trembling step back. Where's Ethan? No one had seen him vanish. No sound. No cry for help. He had been there just moments ago, running with them, his breath ragged, his footsteps loud against the wooden floor. Now he was gone. The others spun around, searching, calling his name, but the house absorbed their voices. Their own echoes felt distant, distorted, as if they were hearing themselves from another place, another time. And then, the voice came back. It did not belong to any of them. Come and see. The words came from behind them, from the hallway they had just escaped, the hallway they had run from. The voice was familiar. It was Ethan's. The others froze, their bodies rigid with fear. The voice was right behind them, too close, too real. But when they turned, there was no one there. Come and see. The voice came again, but it was different this time. Hollow. Stretched. As if something was speaking through him. Then the door in front of them slammed shut. The corridor plunged into darkness. A match struck in the blackness, a single flickering flame in Olivia's shaking hands. The dim glow cast trembling shadows across the walls, revealing just enough. They were not alone. The wallpaper pulsed as if something was pressing against it from the other side. The floorboards groaned beneath a weight that was not theirs. The house was breathing now, its walls closing in, its corridors shifting. We need to get out, Daniel whispered, his voice tight with controlled panic. There is no out, the house answered. The words did not come from any of them. The flame flickered. Then it went out. The darkness swallowed them whole. The next thing Olivia knew, she was alone. The others were gone. No voices. No footsteps. No sign they had ever been there. Just her. Just the house. The door before her was open, a door she had not seen before. Slowly, unwillingly, she stepped forward. The room beyond was untouched by time. A parlor, frozen in another era, its furniture perfectly arranged, its fireplace roaring though no one had lit it. A single chair sat facing the fire, its back to her. And then, it turned. The chair moved, slowly, as if someone were seated in it, shifting to face her. At first she could not see the figure that sat there. The shadows hid its form, its face. But then it leaned forward. And she understood. She was never leaving this house. None of them were. Because the house did not just take people. It kept them. And now it had her too. The last thing she saw was the reflection in the fireplace's glass, the image of the Blackwood family portraits that had lined the hall. 5 new faces had appeared among them. Hers was one of them. And then the fire went out. The house stood silent once more, waiting for the next ones. Perhaps, even now, another invitation is being sent. Another group will step through its doors, unaware that they are not guests, but offerings. If you made it this far, consider supporting the channel by liking this video and subscribing. There are more stories to be told, some forgotten, some waiting to be uncovered. And who knows? The next one might be even closer than you think. Like, subscribe, and stay for as long as you can.